And so
Hi students, my name is Ava and I have a whole crew here. We're representing the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. We're connecting with you for the next 30 minutes before we switch off as a campus partner. What that means is that our IAS swag up here is only available to you for 30 minutes. So don't be shy and come on up and grab some if you want a lasting memento. Otherwise, we have some information that we're going to put on the screen. And then several of us, all of us, will probably be sharing some information, but that is going to be led by our dean, Dr. Bruce Burgett. And so, hit it.
Thank you. So I'm Bruce Burgett, the Dean of the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences here. And I don't know what else you've experienced at these sort of pastoral events. What we did not want to do is get up and just talk at you about a whole bunch of stuff, because that stuff is all up on our website. So if you want information about any of the IAS majors, what we do, etc., go to the website. Rather than me just sort of repeating that here, what we want to do instead is briefly introduce ourselves and have everyone here sort of also introduce themselves, and then just respond very briefly, one sentence to two prompts. So one of those prompts is, what's the one thing that you think is truly valuable, unique, important about majors in IAS? And two, what's one thing a student considering a major in IAS should be thinking about right now? Okay. So I'm going to start. So what's one thing that's truly cool about IAS majors? I think that for me, it's interdisciplinarity. And what I mean by that is the majors all focus in a particular area while also developing the positive capacity to move across those areas, across different areas. And that's a really important skill to have. Not just to work in one silo, but to be able to talk to people across different silos. That was a really long sentence with a bunch of semicolons in it, so I didn't really model that well there, but that would be one thing. Second, what's one thing that a student considering an IAS major or minor should know? The faculty in IAS are here for students not only as classroom instructors, but also as mentors, mappers, and advocates. If you become an IAS major, you will take a course called the IAS 300, and I'll say a lot more about what that means. But right now, that's all on one hand. So let's go next.
I'll go. So I advise two majors in IAS, CLA, Cultural Literature and the Arts, and Mathematical Thinking and Visualization. My sentence, this is literally a sentence, these two majors are excellent pathways into hot STEM careers, assuming you are at all interested in video game or web design industries or working in marketing and communication. So stop saying a sentence, but those are two majors that students don't often see linked to those type of pathways, but the opportunities are totally there.
My name is Nee Tran, and I'm also an advisor in IAS. I advise community psychology, law, economics, and public policy, global studies, and society and ethics, human behavior. So what I want you all to know about the majors is that it allows students to examine societal, systematic, political, economic, and cultural institutions and how it shapes policies and informs individuals to engage in social and individual action to impact society. Long sentence, yes. So what I want you to know about the majors, or what you can get out of it, is that you really have the opportunity to pursue your passions and transform your majors or your areas of interest into careers that positively impact society.
Hi, my name is Marissa. I'm a student assistant at IAS, and I'm also a double major in society, ethics, and human behavior, and gender, women's sexuality studies. And one thing that I find really valuable about my majors is that it provides me like a platform to learn about social issues and identities, and being able to apply my own identities into what I'm doing. So I was able to do 2 undergraduate research studies, and inputting what I hold as a Latina in college, and developing a framework to bring visibility to Latinx students in classes.
Y'all, my name is Angelica. I'm a 4th-year student within IAS, and I also work at the IAS office upstairs in Unit 1. And I am a double major, triple minor. So I have double majors in media communication studies and American and ethnic studies, and I have 4 minors in diversity studies, gender, women's sexuality studies, and health studies. So I think one of the unique things that you can learn through IAS and through these majors is the fact that it's all interdisciplinary, like the dean said. So your availability to do whatever is crazy real in IAS. I have my own radio show through Wave here on campus, and I'm also participating in a lot of health studies research. So the opportunities are endless.
So I also have a very long sentence. You'll notice that if you come to IAS, we we're very descriptive in our language. Something I find to be
Jessica,
really...
who are you?
Oh, sorry guys. I'm Jessica Trinkamp. I'm one of the IAS advisors. I'm not going to list all my majors, but I will see some of you who join IAS. I'm also a grad of the program, so I'm a huge fan. I think the most important thing is the opportunities for real-world engagement. We have internships, we have the radio station, we have youth court, law clinic, study abroad, students researching and presenting at conferences, the Olympia internship. I don't know if anyone looked at the website recently, but the youngest state representative is a grad of our program who did the legislative internship and is now a state representative, the youngest ever, which is really exciting. And then something to think about is your major doesn't dictate your job. I think that's something that's hard to think about, but college is about exploring your interest, and once you find it, grab onto it and use the resources here to make it happen.
So I'm Rob Turner. I am faculty in IAS, senior lecturer generally at say Earth and Environmental Sciences. I'm affiliated with 3 different degrees that I'll explain a little bit more in the second sentence. But what I like about the Earth and Environmental Sciences, Environmental Studies majors is, well, I think the faculty that are involved are really great and committed, as are the students. And what are we committed to? Working together to characterize, analyze the challenges that we face on the environmental end of the spectrum of challenges. And in doing that, hopefully we're going to prepare majors that are going to make for a better future for all of us. And these majors tend to be experiential in orientation, in doing, more than just talking. And what I think is important to know about these majors is not everything that you might want to know about those majors is on the website yet, because they are undergoing a renaissance, if you will. So the current BS in environmental science majors bifurcating into BS in conservation and restoration science and a BS in earth system science. And the BA environmental studies majors also undergoing a revision. So starting next fall, it's going to be all new, sparkly, shiny, and awesome. And eventually the webpage will catch up.
Hi everybody, my name is Professor Yolanda Padilla, and I'm so happy to see so many of my students from last quarter's BC1. So I teach in a few majors, but I'm going to speak in terms of American and ethnic studies, and it's so cool that so many people here have had experience with that major. So my one sentence full of comma splices and grammatically incorrect is that if you do a major in American ethnic studies, you'll definitely learn a lot about race and ethnicity and its relationship to power and culture, but we all teach our classes from what's known as an intersectional perspective, which means that we think about these issues not through one kind of lens, but you'll also think about things like issues of sexual identity and class and gender and all sorts of different things that intersect with race in constituting society in America. So that's one thing. And then in terms of a major or minor in IAS, we have a minor in critical diversity studies, which Angelica talked about. She's doing that minor, which if you can't do a major in AES, and even if you can do a minor in critical diversity studies, which will have the same approaches and content, but not exactly the same. You know, it has different kinds of other things it does too, but that would be a nice thing to really consider too. So if you're interested, definitely look into the diversity studies minor, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Hi, my name is Keith Mita. I teach in the Master of Policy Studies program, as well as the Law, Economics, and Public Policy program. Our majors are for doers and leaders. So a lot of the examples that Jessica gave came from LEPP, the youth court, the law clinics. A lot of our students have gone on to do work inside of the university. So the protests about the diversity center, the organization around the parent union. So my advice on your major, choose a major you like so that you graduate. It's more important to graduate than anything else. So if you're pushing yourself, forcing yourself to go to class to get through your major, that is not a good sign for your future. Choose something you like.
Great. So that's the show part of this, or the tell part of it. What I'd like to do is just, I wanted to have time just for you all to ask questions. So to see that, would you mind just turning to someone next to you, and it could be a group of 2 or 3. What's on your mind? What's a question that you want to ask, or something that you've heard already that you want to hear more about? I'll give you just a couple minutes. So it's always hard for one person to raise their hand. You get to try it out with someone next to you first.
I'm here for a class or are you here for like, because your class is here, it just makes it more so like you can get passionate about it. I don't know, one day with the
I think it's just passion about it.
yeah, I think that's just like the first half. There's gonna be another one. It's like a 2-in-1 sort of thing. I didn't even know IAS, but all it is, we started doing all this like physics and stuff. It's all right, so it's a hybrid, so I'm gonna go once a week. So it's kind of
Okay. So what questions do you have? What can we talk about? What can we tell you about IAS?
Free swag for anyone who volunteers to speak. And everybody else. Hey.
Smart executive free for everyone.
But, like, how can I, like, start, like, looking attractive, like, for my application, like, should I apply to, like, jobs, like in Hope Lake, or like, internships somewhere I can look for, or is there, like, someone I can talk to, like, that could help me make, like, a pathway of, like, what
Your application to IAS? Oh yeah, absolutely. So your three major advisors have all of the tips and tricks that will get you prepared for admission. Specifically, they can tell you which courses are going to lead well into whatever major or majors you're looking at. Do you get in contact with your pre-major? Do you know who that is? Your pre-major advisor? All right. Good news, we got a liaison. Kathy Mitchell is in the room. She's a liaison to IAS, and she's in the pre-major advisor office.
Yeah, and I think that it's good that you asked that question, because oh yeah, I assume you're a first year student. Because it's not too early to start asking those questions. And so I've been here long enough where I've seen a lot of students go all the way through with a lot of these degrees, and they've done a lot of different things. So starting to think about what you are aspiring to do and what interests you the most is never too early, right?
What's the best email to contact pre-major to schedule an appointment?
Yes, we don't have a signed advisor, so if you wanted to schedule an appointment, you could certainly schedule one with me. I'm Kathy Mitchell. Or you can email our UWBADVIS email at UWBADVIS. How many of you have seen an advisor yet? Pre-major. Oh, good. I know some of your advisors. Okay.
Can I add? You mentioned doing like internship at Hopefully. I think that's a great idea. Not necessarily to bolster your application, but the more internships you can do as a student, the better. It's a great way to network and kind of, it's a low risk way to see if that's the kind of work you want to do. Like you may do an internship and you're like, oh, absolutely not, this wasn't for me. But it still goes on your resume, it was still a good experience. And I would say as many internships, volunteer work you can do as a student, the better.
And you get credit for it. I supervised many internships. My students got credit.
And I think that what Keith was saying before is that in the end, you need a degree. But besides the degree gets your foot through the door. But what employers, what people are looking at, I know when I have to do recommendation letters, references to my student leaders, they're asking, can this person work on a team? Tell me about a time when they worked on a special project. Tell me about a time where they work with a very diverse group of people. Would you hire this person to be back on your team again? So that's why internships are very invaluable, and you can start anytime. There's like, you don't need to be a junior, you don't need to be a senior. You can do internships now. A great advice I would have for you all is to schedule an appointment with career services on campus. You all can utilize them up to 2 years after you graduate. So on Handshake, on the career services, there are, I don't know how many jobs. There's a lot of jobs right now, a lot of internships on campus and off campus jobs that you all can participate in. So check out career services and schedule an appointment with them. And they can also assist with graduate school applications, personal statements, assist you with interviewing, mock interviewing, helping you plan out like a career path. So you can utilize them anytime that you're here and up to 2 years after you graduate.
We're going to jump there, but let me just say why you have to care. When you graduate, you're graduating with 1.8 million other college graduates. How are you going to stand apart? It's probably not your major. It's going to be the internship at Hopefully. It's going to be the study abroad in New Zealand. Like all of those additional things that happen outside of the classroom are going to help you stand apart from those 1.8 million grads, right? Quick plug, IAS majors, build in those type of activities into the degree so that you have an opportunity to do classroom learning, bridge it with things in the community, extracurricular, etc. Question over here.
So, how feasible is it to do like internships and such when you're both working and you're also doing college and such? There's not much time in my schedule already, so I'm wondering how that would work. Is it feasible, I guess?
So, yes. So everyone's got different constraints around that, and I was hearing the same thing. You're saying, do this, and it's like, oh my God, I'm doing so many things already. How am I going to fit any of that in? So one really just concrete version of that is, I'll give you two. One is in our internship class in IAS, we allow people to intern at their current work site. And that might seem sort of weird, but the way it works is that you work with the person, not every work site will do this, but at your current work site, you create a learning contract with a supervisor at that work site, and they enter into a kind of mentoring relationship with you rather than just a supervisory relationship with you. So they have to want to do that, but many work sites will set that up. And then we do the academic side of that, but the work experience is there. And I can give examples of students who have kind of, if they're happy where they're working. Well, there was one, a student who was doing sort of frontline work at a restaurant and was interested in learning how to run her own business. And then so asked to do sort of how does the back of the business work? How does the back of the restaurant work? And the supervisor was willing to take her on that way, and so gained that experience. So that's an example. The other is in IAS, as was set up here a couple of times, we do a lot of work to build those experiential learning components into courses. right? So it's not like, okay, go out and volunteer in your free time, but actually in the courses themselves, they're built in. So look for those opportunities also. But I know we've done a lot of work to figure out how to address that. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of flexibility.
I'll also add, some internships are really flexible. We've had some interns work from home. Hours can be flexible. We've had people work on like the crisis line, where you can do all day and night. But there's opportunities for kind of different internships where you can flex your schedule.
And internships can be on campus also, if that makes it easier for some people that's on campus.
Yeah, so I actually did that. I did an on-campus internship here on campus. And that's how I found out that I wanted to do health studies as well as all my IAS stuff. So it was offered as a course, but I was able to make it my job over the summer quarter. And so I also got paid for doing an internship, because a lot of internships are also not paid. You have to be aware of what you're asking for. So I did my internship here, analyzing Latinx health issues on campus. And through that, I was able to work with the faculty, and that faculty took me under her wings, and we did more and more projects after that. So it's also very important to, if you're doing an on-campus job, to have that close connection with whoever you're doing.
Just underline one thing in IAS is we do allow paid internships to be academic internships. There are places where that's not true. Business, for example, on this campus used to not allow that. I don't know if that's still true. But for the same reason, it's like you can't ask people to volunteer their time. Other questions? Everyone was chatting a minute ago. Go.
All right, I guess I'm going again. Studying abroad, I always wondered about this, and is that something you would consider way later after you've chosen your major, or something like that? It seems like quite a commitment, and I don't quite know how it works. I probably should look into it.
Ava, would you like to speak to this?
I would. So, did you know that most students study abroad in their junior year? Sometimes it's too late, because if you wait till your junior year, you might only have specific credits for your major left, and there's no room to fill in study abroad courses. If you study abroad earlier, it makes me happy, because your chances of being retained at college and being interested in a major is greatly increased, right? It also means that the courses that you do abroad are going to count towards the electives that you probably have now versus 2 years from now. Study abroad in UW Blend, they have an office, your advisor. All of us can really tell you and coach you how to select programs that match your interests, but also offer courses that will apply either to your intended major or just generally your electives. It is always a good idea to study abroad earlier than later, especially if you're committed to making it happen. Another thing, they do surveys. These are not real numbers, don't put them in your homework. Something like 9 out of 10 incoming college students want to study abroad. Only 1 out of 10 actually will, because it feels overwhelming. It feels big. It's exciting for you to be at UW Bothell, because we have whole units and teams ready and willing to help you build study abroad into your time. Meet with your advisor early so that we can help strategize. Helpful? Was that too commercial and car salesy?
I would say
I love it.
Advisor also faculty members, so talk to faculty. It doesn't be a faculty member does a study abroad, but if you have a relationship with a faculty member in any of your classes, you can ask them, hey, I'm interested in abroad, who should I, people running them. Finally, I would say, similar to the internships, sometimes people think about study abroad as a whole year or a full semester, a quarter. There are some programs like that at the UW. We run a lot of shorter ones, because that's really hard for people to extract themselves from their lives for that long. And so there are a lot of study abroads that are 2 or 3 week kind of immersive experiences someplace with some kind of incoming orientation and then off-ramp afterwards.
Bruce, can I answer that?
Yep.
I decided to do study abroad last minute, so I did it my summer quarter, my junior year, which was last year. It was for a month. I went to France and Spain, and I usually never did summer quarter, but it was really good to not take time apart from fall, winter, spring quarter. Luckily, I had a few electives to complete, and I needed a VLPA, which is a visual learning arts, the art credit that I needed. and that fulfilled my study abroad fulfilled the credit. So I was able to do that. And definitely looking at faculty, I built a relationship with the 2 faculty that led that program, and that also encouraged me to go.
So do they offer like study abroad for like majors like law, economics, and public policy? Because like I kind of was like thinking about it, but like all the study abroad programs like, I saw that were like health studies or like environmental science. So.
Specifically for LEPP, we don't have something, but I can say that many of our majors do study abroad. Mostly like these folks are saying, they fulfill our elective requirements, and many of our majors have few required classes and lots of electives, so it's quite easy to choose classes that'll fit. I would say less than this is this is not something that this is just my opinion. More than the courses you're going to take, I would think about the place you're going to go and the people you're going to meet and the experiences you're going to have. So that feeling you have in your stomach, oh, that's interesting, I would respect that feeling because a time will come when you don't have that option anymore. So take advantage of it.
And I might just add, if I can, there's study abroad programs organized by the university, and then there's a whole slew of study abroad programs that are provided through other organizations that work with UW. You could, just like you would look at our course catalog and choose a course that sounds like LEPP, you could look at their course catalogs, and then what I would encourage you to do is work with your advisor to make sure that we could find a way to petition that class toward LEPP. So there's plenty of opportunity to do that. Just do it in collaboration with an advisor so that we can make sure you're choosing, the right type of programming class.
I would say sort of, and it's directly the question is sort of, study abroad in the area of law, economics, and public policy, or intersecting with your interest in that area is something to look for. Study abroad doesn't tend to be just within majors at the UW. So 3 areas of interest. One example, this is not abroad because it's domestic, but since the founding of this campus, IAS has run a Washington, D.C. seminar where it's a human rights seminar, and you go to D.C. For a week and meet with people all over the political spectrum on human rights issues. Fabulous experience. There's stuff up on the website about it. You could say more, Jessica, you went on it. Yes.
No.
No? Oh,
it's one of my biggest regrets. But I'll give an example if I can. I worked with a student who went on a study abroad trip, and her family was Norwegian, and she wanted to know more about her history, and they happened to be going to the Norwegian embassy as one of their stops on the DC trip, and she connected with that person, networked with someone at the embassy, and then came back and was like, I need to go to Norway. So we found a trip. She studied abroad in Norway. She now lives in Norway and works for the U.S. State Department. So those experiences worked for her future. That's just one example, and there are so many. So many of our really high-achieving student leaders have done the DC trip and moved on from there. I will say, UW Tacoma has a criminal justice minor, but they do run some study abroads that have that aspect. And then also Law Societies and Justice at UW Seattle have some study abroad trips. I believe there's one to Ireland, and there have been ones to the Netherlands, so we can keep an eye out for those too. Thank you.
Advisors can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I spent study abroad is at the UW is that you don't pay tuition, you pay the fee for the study abroad. And that often covers travel, accommodations, that sort of thing. And so UW does this nice thing, which it reduces the cost, right, for study abroad, as opposed to saying you're paying tuition and on top of that, the fee for the course.
So you might be thinking that discussions about internships and study abroad are actually kind of external opportunities to IAS. But I think a take-home message is that IAS as a school is remarkably flexible. The majors are very open and yes, interdisciplinary. So it is encouraging students to think outside the box and to take advantage of experiences like this in ways that other majors and schools might not be quite so open to.
All the things we've talked about so far do satisfy a requirement for all IAS majors, which is called the interdisciplinary practice and reflection requirement. 5 credits of hands-on, immersive, upper-level coursework of some kind, and internships and study abroad are examples of that. Other questions? Doesn't have to be about internships and study abroad. It can be something completely different.
Does anyone have any media communication questions? Getting involved with broadcasting, Clamor, Glitter, Arts Journal, Husky Herald, newspaper for school? Yeah.
About the radio station, like, can you explain how that sort of works, like day to day, and how that? I'm just sort of still a bit working out how that radio station thing works.
Yeah, you can definitely check out the U-Wave website, and it's basically run by students and brought forward by students. It's all student run. And so I have my own radio show on U-Wave, and I got involved because I got involved with Sean Toft, who is one of the MCS professors, and he kind of does all that radio stuff as well. Anyone can apply for their show as long as you're a student here, and you don't have to be an IAS major. And basically we have club meetings on Fridays, and it's all live broadcasted online. And we are just like a platform for folks to just voice whatever they want to voice. My show is a mixture of all different things: pop culture, diversity, social justice, and it's really just like a life-changing opportunity. And I feel like sometimes people don't even know about it until like their 4th year here. So I think it's something that a lot of students should get involved with as early as they can, so that they can build it to something that they want it to be. A lot of things within IAS are like that. It's something that if you have an idea, IAS won't shut it down. IAS will work with you to make it what you want it to be. So basically, U-Wave isn't like a structured thing. It's something that it's just whatever you want to put into it. If that makes sense.
I mean, it's a student club, right?
Yeah.
So you get involved by going to the club meeting and say, hey, I'm interested. Tell me about it.
Kind of a personal question about distinguishing between the majors. If I was going to go into social work, let's say, is a community psychology degree better or society ethics behavior better?
Something that I always recommend students do is kind of work backwards. So if your goal is social work, you can start looking into social work programs now. And what do they recommend for experience? I know some psychology programs are looking for specific classes: developmental, abnormal psychology, statistics, which is actually all built into the major. A lot of MSW programs are looking for experience working with that particular field, like children or elderly or vulnerable populations. So it's sometimes better to work backwards. What's the goal, and then how can IAS support you and nurture that and get you ready for that next step? I think I was a society ethics and human behavior major. One thing that's cool about the majors in IAS, although they sound different than traditional majors, is when I went into an interview, people would ask, what is that? Whereas if you just have a sociology major, they're like, I think I know what that is. So when that question came up, I was able to say, well, this is what my major was about, but I also did this, this. I worked in groups. I did this internship. I did these things, and it was a really good opportunity.
To add on to that, community psychology and SEB, I advise all of those majors with Jessica, and the students in those majors, they can both go on to the School of Social Work. When you go into this website, click on community psychology or click on SEB, and then when you click on one of those, You'll see like on the bottom page, you'll see resources. For all of the majors, you will see a course list. And that'll be a list of all the classes that counts towards the CP major, a list of all the classes that counts towards SEB. So under SEB, you will see a concentration area called individual behavior. Those are all community psychology classes. So even though you're not a community psychology student, there's nothing stopping you from taking developmental psychology, cultural psychology, risk and resilience. Even though they're CP classes, they're also SEB classes. So that's what we're saying about the classes overlapping a lot, interdisciplinary and stuff. So even though you're SEB, your focus is on individual behavior and human services.
I have one thing to add to that. One of our faculty, Shauna Carlisle, graduated with a PhD in social work, and she's not a clinician, so it's not a therapy or psychological focus she has. She has a policy focus for her studies. So there is, so that could be for IAS or even global studies could be a relevant major and still fit inside of the social work umbrella.
I think that's very common, so I don't know if this is your case. You may have a very mature understanding what social work is a field, know exactly what you want to do. A lot of people, they name a field, and it's so diversified in the way that you describe. That's where an internship is really helpful, right? Because you can get in, sometimes internship is a pathway into something you want to do. Sometimes it's a pathway to say, oh my God, I thought I wanted to do it, but I don't want to do that, right? And so it's a quick learning that you don't want to go down that path, or, you know, the direct service stuff I like, but I can't do it, it's going to burn me out. You know, I want to move more, I want to do that, but I want to do it in this way. So you get a better map of what's out there in those fields. Where was the, yeah.
So does IAS offer anything for film directing or the film industry?
So we have a lot of film classes. I would say culture, literature, and the arts, you'll find classes like Introduction to Film, Film Studies, Queer Cinema, lots of opportunities to look at film. As a production base, you could look at classes in media and communications, like working with video, working with audio, those production classes where a lot of students create their own films. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities. And then thinking of an internship associated with that, we have students that are at radio stations, we have students that are at work with casting directors. And so I think it's definitely possible.
And I would add interdisciplinary arts to that also, that degree. So both MCS and IA, so the media communication studies and interdisciplinary arts, are degrees that are split between kind of critiquing and making. So there's a big emphasis on both those on making. And the types of film media you make is slightly different, but there's a lot of overlap between those degrees. You know, a lot of the making classes satisfy requirements for both of them. There's also a minor in visual and media arts, right, where you can do that kind of work also as a complement to some other degree.
Would you say that IAS majors prepare you well for a graduate school that you're like considering it, I guess?
Absolutely. Every major in IAS can prepare you for graduate school. Reading, writing, critiquing, those are all steps to prepare you for a graduate program for sure. Yeah, I would say every single major.
I think critical to success in graduate school is just being really curious, and we try to foster that sense of curiosity, not tamp it down in IAS majors.
And if that's something you're interested in, like definitely talk to faculty, because all your faculty have gone to grad school, really be good mentors for that.
And the same thing is what I said about social work. Grad school is a big category, right? So even fields within grad school, I want to go to grad school in sociology. It can seem like, well, every program must be the same. Huge differences between programs. So find someone on the faculty who went to grad school in that area, and you don't take classroom. You don't have to take a classroom. Just go and talk to them, right? That's what I meant by mapping, mentoring, advocating roles of faculty, not just classrooms, but there for you for those conversations also.
And we read lots of recommendations for graduate. Lots. We're happy.
Students, that's our time. Our campus partners who are going to take the stage are in the back. This is your last chance to clamor for some swag. Otherwise, you could visit us in UW 360. Our website has drop-in advising hours, but for your stage, I highly encourage you to connect with your pre-major advisor so they can get you started on the right track. All right?
Nice to meet you all.